What can I say? I waited out the clock. I waited until all of my peer group, even like people slightly younger than me, I'd say like 5, 6 years tops, for all these people to potentially design a video game. And I'm like, okay, I'm the kind of guy who, like, I tend to make careless mistakes. So that makes me a little bit on the apprehensive side. I'm also, lazy, procrastinator, this and that. Whatever label you want to throw at me to, make you feel better about my lack of volume of work. Just making VTube avatars, just rigging the animations and stuff. I actually made a video yesterday, but I wanted to go more in depth because it was a side that I made at the end of the video, and I was just like, I felt it was just unfair. And then when I rewatched the video, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. It's like I'm talking about something for like 5 minutes, and then I switch on over to something, and then I talk about something for the rest of the movie. I mean, the video, and it's just doesn't make any sense. And the rising RAM prices, chip prices, whatever you want to call it, isn't going to make anything easier. So what I'm getting at is the usage of Blender to make 3D models, 3D meshes, and then using like a plugin called Rigify to rig the model, which is animation basically. And then you have that set up, and you can sell it or you can keep it for yourself, like it's your own intellectual property or whatever. To an extent though, like if somebody gets into your computer and like whatever hacks you or just like copies your stuff, then it's up for grabs then, right? We call that corporate espionage. Corporate espionage, sorry. Espionage. Yeah, that'll be a funny word. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is the generation's end. An end of a generation. I was like looking into this whole Xbox acquisition. So Phil Spencer left it basically in flames. But like, if I'm to give Phil Spencer some credit, he gave a lot of money to a lot of like questionable ethics in terms of gaming. Like he was really pushing for that Connect. He was really pushing for all this other bullshit. I think like one of the things that like really weirded me out was because I'm both like a big cyberpunk. I was a big cyberpunk fan, the original source material, and then Keanu Reeves. So you put them together, you make Cyberpunk 2077. I'm like, oh, cool, cool. But then the game comes out, and yeah, it's one of those things that pardon those technical difficulties. So the game comes out, yeah, blah blah blah. Everybody knows, but like one of the things that they were pushing at that press release was this specific type of Xbox. I think it was the Xbox 360X or something like that, and it was supposed to be um of that era, not 360, sorry, Series X, Xbox Series X. Wow, I can't believe I just said that. It sounds so weird, but it's like, wait, isn't that the new one? Damn it, I'm so confused. Xbox One X. Yeah, that's what it was called. My bad. Sorry, the naming of these the Xbox and the Microsoft, the pedophile console, the Epstein Island. Yo, how do we get rid of these poor people console? It's called the Xbox One X, and it was supposed to be like this souped up powerful version of like that generation of console. So it would have been PlayStation 4 and then Xbox One and then yada yada yada, right? I mean, I think it was the Wii was that around at that time. No, Wii was around PlayStation 3 times, so they had the Wii U or something like that, or maybe the Switch number one. I forget. So, anyways, the game comes out, and I bring this up because you'd think that if you're gonna have a press release with Cyberpunk, right? Um, I hate to say it, but it was the LCD at the time. Like the Xbox One, as it was called. Sorry, it just like weirds me out because it's like you say it, but it's not like X1. It's XNONE, and it's just like I know what the console is. It's just like how you say it is just like so weird because you know it's like a retard console. So this Asha Sharma lady is talking about like she's the spokesperson of this the Xbox brand now after the abundant failure that was Game Pass and like all the millions of dollars they threw at all these developers to develop games like one or two. At least like they were as like epically. And I still think like Sony did it as a tax write-off, but at least it wasn't as much of a loss as the live service escapades, right? And so you're watching the end of a generation, like the Xbox One X wasn't powerful enough to play Cyberpunk 2077 at release. It was just a pipe dream. And it was kind of funny how they unveiled that console all the way back then, and then like a next generation of consoles had to come out to basically, you know, shoulder the burden of being able to handle these games, and even those consoles were experiencing some difficulties. Not as much as the previous gen, but obviously, like the game wasn't finished. And then it dawned on me, right? You know who wouldn't have made this mistake when making a video game? Warren Spector. Yeah, I said it. I'll say again, Warren Spector, the creator of Deus Ex. That's right. The talent that was like back in the day and existed, like it doesn't anymore. Or they're like, doing something else, like a more diversionary type of game. So like let's say Baldur's Gate 3, which is more on the classical side, like it's more of a throwback to their previous title. Whereas like one could easily argue that if they were to apply that to like the modern day way of gaming and stuff with like the whole expectation 4K 60 like multiplayer, all that shit. I heard it has couch co-op though, so that's pretty good. But the end of a generation, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall with Monster Hunter, because it's like, yeah, the game is good, it's fun, and I'm even showing gameplay of it like right now to like back up that I still enjoy playing it, but I gotta accept it, man. Like the previous generation that were out there making video games for all of us and we were all enjoying, they're just not around anymore, and we have to shoulder that burden now. Some of us, a lot of us don't even give a shit, but me myself, I've always wanted to do this, and I think it's a calling that I find it's just too woefully apparent that if nothing is done about the medium, it's either going to diverge or the profitability is going to succumb to basically first party title releases only. And I'm going to count Grand Theft Auto as one of those games. So, and it's kind of odd though, because sometimes I'll like browse YouTube and I'll just check out like games that like, yeah, I know nobody wants to play them, but like they look fun to me, like a 2D Metroidvania game or like whatever, like something in the vein of like a side scroller or something like that. And like, yeah, it's fun to like look at those games as a means of looking back, but I can understand that like unless I come out with like a masterpiece like Blasphemous or Dead Cells or the original Risk of Rain or like like the new Shinobi games I hear are pretty good. There's a Blaze Blue game, which is actually surprising to me, but it's also two-dimensional, so the genre isn't dead completely, but like like I said, like I always say like in the previous videos, but like it is true that the younger crowds they don't like these kinds of games. That the old heads are like they're dying for. They're like, oh my god, we could play Demon Souls in HD or Shadow of the Colossus. Like I guarantee you, you hand that controller to a little kid, right, or like like a teenager or whatever, and he's just like on a horseback going for like a 10-15 minute ride from boss to boss. It's just like fucking dead air and nothing. Just like to put the controller down past the second boss. He's like, yeah, I'm out. And plus the cutscenes play and all that shit. It was like, you can appreciate the boss fight, the spectacle, and like maybe the storyline to an extent, but all that dead air, like you know what I mean? Because it's like, back in those times, just like having like a boss fight that big was just like a novelty because it was just unheard of, right? So that was like the whole point of the game. But now you got these like next gen resources, and you're just like racing around this gigantic map with a horse. It's just like nothing's happening. You're a little kid playing as what the fuck is? If I wanted to play Red Dead Redemption, I would, and then I turn it off. I wonder how many kids have actually played Red Dead Redemption. That would be pretty cool if they're into it. I mean, Rockstar feels like a shame. They threw all this money at all these games, right? Like this one, it's called L.A. Noire, and it's just like this. Yeah, it's like a noir film type of. Well, the context of that, just in case the younger generations don't understand what that is. It's like an old school movie. Technically, they used to be predominantly black and white due to the era of their release, but there are like film crime serials where there was either a murder mystery or some kind of like backdoor dealings, of the time, right? Of the time. So it's like things about casinos or like detectives or I don't know, like trying to find missing persons or solving mysteries and stuff. And in the game, you would just go around trying to like do the same thing. And the biggest feature was you would interview people and like read their facial features to see if they were lying or not, like kind of like interrogating people. And it was like Rockstar Games, so it's like it has that graphical fidelity, so it like looks realistic. So you can see the people sweating, they're like shifty eyes, they're like trying to hide something, like smiling at you, smirking or whatever. It had that like realistic angle to it, vibe to it. But then like nobody played, even though it got a good score. Same thing with Red Dead Redemption. I hear Emeru's doing a playthrough of that, and that's why like she's getting called a Nazi and shit by like what's her face, Venoms again. Well, but that's besides the point. I think the newer generation of games are gonna be like this Rust game. I was watching this Japanese YouTuber I recently subscribed to. He's like a younger man, so it's like it's interesting. So I get to have like a better perspective on like the market, on like how, because you just don't want to like make up people's minds. You want to like understand like with an honest scope. This is what people like to do. This is what they like to play and stuff, right? And I could be naive to it and like it's more of a niche game, but I heard that Rust is a very popular. Rust, Tarkov, and now they're coming out with like the new Marathon, despite the controversy behind the stolen art assets. They're going hard with the trailers and everything. Like when you own a company, you have that kind of money. You're just gonna go all out, right? And again, I know this is like a big ass throwback to like one of my earliest videos. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? How early are we talking about? Well, I think I started back in like summer or something. Well, and what I said was, if it didn't have VR, if it didn't have split screen multiplayer, so it's split screen and you can go on multiplayer, it's a bust because it's like, what's the point of those graphics, right? Even if it's like in its demo stages and stuff, but I think they're just gonna rock the whole single player, multiplayer experience. An end of an entire generation, an end of an era.